Yo, so today we are going to talk about structures, and now we're getting into a little bit more complicated part of coding. And basically what structures are there for kind of creating your own custom data types. And up until this point, you guys have seen all of the basic data types that we have used in this class so far. So string, int, double, bool, array, and a dictionary. Eventually, you're going to reach the need to kind of create your own data types and your own structure system to work with whatever app that you're creating. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So in order to define a structure, we must declare it using the struct keyword and then give it a name. And if we take a look at the name, it is not using the normal camel casing, it is starting with a capital letter, and that is because all of the built-in data types that we use, like int, bool, string, are all starting with a capital letter. Now, when we come back and finish the structure, we are going to use brackets, which will hold everything that is inside our structure, all our properties and methods. So let's take a look at that in a playground. So open up a blank playground in Swift Playground. What we're going to do right now is I want you guys to follow along with me. So go into your Swift Playground app, create a blank playground, and call it structure practice. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over what structures are, how they work, and just kind of like a basic breakdown of what they look like. So hopefully you understood what I've talked about, my explanation before this started. So we're going to kind of put this into action in two different parts. We're going to look at two different structures. So first thing we're going to use is we're going to use the struct, okay? And that's the declaration for a structure, and we're going to give it a name. So we're going to start, and we're just going to do it, and we're going to base it off cities and towns. Okay, so we're going to do and make it my city, and this is basically what a structure looks like. All right, so what we're going to do now is we are going to add properties to our structure, and we're going to do some basic properties, and we're going to use all of these are going to be using variable because they can and will change. All right, don't you really use lets in this situation. We are going to stick with specifically variables. So we're going to give a name to our city. In this case, it's going to be Chicago. All right, and we are going to add some citizens to our town. Now we're going to do this in an array. Now you don't have to call it Chicago, and you don't have to call it the names that I am going to give them. So we are going to, in Chicago, we are going to give Steve a home. We are going to give John a home. We are going to give Marsha a home, and we're gonna give Jules a home. All right, so that's two properties. We are going to just give an amount of buildings that the city has, and we're just gonna say that we have 10 buildings. And then we're gonna look at resources, okay? And in this case, with resources, we're going to make a dictionary of resources. So we're going to give our first one is going to be money. And we're going to give, let's just say, we'll just start with $100,000. We're going to give, let's just say, steel for building materials. And let's just give it a random number. And then let us also add a food supply here to feed our 4 people that live in this great huge city. We'll just give it a nice round unit of 500,000. Okay, so essentially what we've done now is we've created a structure and we've added properties to them. So if you remember back with the stuff that we've done and all the pre-built-in things, first thing we're going to do is we are going to initialize this, and how to do that is we're going to create a variable, and we'll just call it city1, okay, and it's going to equal my city with parentheses. Now essentially what this does is if we want to print and find out about things inside our city 1. Okay, now we can look at each of the properties and notice how the properties show up. So you have an int for buildings, which would be here, the citizens and their names, the name of the city, and the resources. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're just going to print what citizens we have, and it's going to show up over here, and here are our citizens. Now we could, in this case, add a citizen, so we could do city1 dot citizens, and then since this is an array, we're going to use a dot append, and we can add Jack to the city. And when we print it out again, print city1 dot citizens, we should get an additional person added to our group. So now we have 5 citizens. You'd also do a dot count just to see how many you actually have instead of just the names. So it gives us 5. Okay. Now you can also do functions and other things inside here. So if we want to do a function, now a function in this case would actually be inside a structure, would be called a method. So let's just say we want to fortify our city defenses. All right. So we are going to print out a message that says defenses fortified, and then when we want to run that, we can go and we can choose city1, and then we can look at this, and now we have, and notice that there's an M here for the method, and we can run our method, and we will defenses fortified. Now the other thing that you can do is you can do what's called a mutating function. Now this is something that's a little extra. You're not going to actually have to do this for your the thing that you're going to have to do at the end of this, but we're going to do a mutating function, and we are going to call this food plague. Okay, and it is going to be based on a random number. So let us set, I think this could be a let. So let, we're going to call it rando equals int dot random, and we're just going to choose, it's either going to be a 1 or a 2. All right, now we're just going to put a little bit of our coding knowledge into action right here. So if rando equals 1, what's going to happen? We are going to have our, we're going to print, you got lucky and survived, no food lost. Okay, and then we're going to do else, and we're going to print out, actually what we're going to do is we're going to run a calculation first. So we're going to say resources, and then we're going to go and specifically choose food, and we're going to add in this exclamation point to avoid some errors, and we are going to have it minus equal, we have 500,000, so let's just say that it completely destroys our food store. Print a plague has hit your town. You now have, and then we're going to use our string interpolation, because we're going to just try to use everything we can from our coding, because that's who we are in this class. And we are now going to call resources once again, and we are going to call food, capital F. All right. You now have this units of food, and don't forget to add the exclamation point to get rid of the error. So now if we want to run city1 dot, city1 dot, let's look, and we can run food plague, and we'll have two options of what's going to happen. We're either going to survive, or a plague has hit your town. You now have 250,000 units of food. Okay, so if we just call out .resources and we look at what food is now, all right, it's not going to be good. Our town's going to be dying off because we got a plague that just hit. And we're just coding all this stuff in, and it's all on our own. This is all our own program right now. Okay, so now there's only 250,000 units of food available, okay? So this is kind of like a basic way of looking at it and understanding it and setting it up, okay? But the next part is going to show you how to create a structure with none of the stuff inside so that you can create it yourself, okay? So this was kind of an initial thing. So just kind of turn this in, and then when you get to the next video, you'll see what we're looking to do.